Join us now for Education Matters, a weekly look at the real people and real stories in education across North Carolina.
Welcome to another episode of Education Matters presented by the Public School Forum of North Carolina. I'm your host, Keith Poston. This episode, we're going to explore private school voucher programs, including our own here in North Carolina, with a leading national expert who's been studying these efforts across the country. Like every week before we tackle our main topic, we will open with our segment we call Edlines, a quick scan of education headlines across North Carolina and the U.S. President Donald Trump released his first budget last week, and major changes and cuts in federal education programs are included. The administration is seeking to cut $9.2 billion, or 13.5%, from the Department of Education's total budget, dramatically reducing or eliminating grants for things like teacher training, after-school programs, and aid to first-generation college students. A host of programs aimed at low-income students are also slated for cuts, including federal work-study funds that help students that work their way through college, and nearly $200 million in cuts to federal TRIO and Gear Up programs, which help disadvantaged students in middle and high school prepare for college. While proposing massive cuts in areas like after-school programs, the president is proposing to shift $1.4 billion toward one of his key priorities, expanding charter schools, private school vouchers, and other alternatives to traditional public schools. The North Carolina House last week approved legislation that would change how the state grades the state's public schools. Under current law, the A to F letter grades are based on 80% on a student proficiency on standardized tests and 20% on year-over-year student growth. House Bill 322 would change the formula to 50% for each one, placing more emphasis on growth or improvement over time. The House has supported changes to the grading formula in recent years, while the Senate has shown little interest in any changes. Bills were officially filed last week in both the House and the Senate to create a new North Carolina Teaching Fellows program that aims to recruit more STEM and special education teachers into North Carolina classrooms. Senate Bill 252 and House Bill 339 were filed with a near record number of legislators, both Republican and Democrat, signing on as co-sponsors. The bill certainly has one of the strongest out-of-the-gate showings of bipartisan support we've seen among education bills in recent years. The framework was unveiled by Senator Chad Barefoot and Representative Craig Horn, who you see here on the screen, a week ago at an event at NC State. Finally, the state's new and sometimes controversial Achievement School District that will take over 5 low-performing elementary schools now has a superintendent. Dr. Eric Hall, who has been serving as president and CEO of Communities and Schools of North Carolina, will be the new district's first superintendent. Hall began his career as a teacher and has more than 20 years of experience in education. Communities and Schools is a statewide nonprofit network that provides integrated support services in more than 300 schools across North Carolina. Remember, you can visit the Public School Forum's website at ncforum.org, click Education Matters, and read more about each of the Edlines as well as other topics we cover each week.